It was late one night, and all the narrow gauge engines were tucked up safely in their sheds. It was a small, misty night, so they decided to tell ghost stories. Each one tried to outdo the other, more scarier than the last. There were stories about all sorts: old iron bridges, ghosts that roam around with ghostly lamps, and eventually it came to Juke, the oldest engine on the line. He looked down at his buffers, and then looked at Peter Sam as their handle, and gave them a knowing look. They looked back the same way. They knew what story he was thinking of. So Juke began his tale. As many of you are aware, I used to work for them in Sodor. Oh, it was a lovely line, as I've said many times. However, as you know, there was an engine on there called Smudger. He was not the nicest and always got into accidents. And as you know, he was turned into a generator. However, that is only where the Reverend stopped the story. I, myself, know otherwise. It was after the mines began closing, shortly after Stewart and Falcon arrived. They closed under, well, what the public were told were problems with finding the stuff, but that wasn't the main reason. We decided to not tell the public as we didn't want any negative attention. The railway was dying as it was. However, there were certain things that began happening. One of them was just after Smudger was turned into a generator, after he had a rather nasty accident, where he almost killed about, almost 40 people, I think. It might have even been 50. He derailed as per usual, and, well, you probably know the rest. Anyways, after he was turned into a generator, he mysteriously disappeared one night. We assumed he'd been sold for scrap. He wasn't really useful back there, or on the rails. However, when we spoke to the manager, he had no idea that Smudger had gone, and it came as a shock to him. Can't say I blame him. He was never really intent on Smudger. One day, I was sent to the mines, mainly just to help move some of the old scrap trucks that were being taken to sell for some money. But when I got there, I was told that I'd need to rearrange the trucks, but they were done for me. I assumed Stewart and Falcon had done it, but when I asked them, they hadn't even been up to the quarry at that point, or the mines. I was confused, but they're not exactly hard to move by hand, so perhaps the workmen saved me a job. Oh, I wish that were true. I was sat outside the mines one day, and a bunch of workmen came running out saying they heard a whistle. I said I didn't hear anything, and it couldn't have been Stewart or Falcon. Stewart was in the works, getting an axle change, and, well, Sir Handel was taking one of the tourist tours across the mountainside. Then the whistle blasted out again. Even I heard it this time, and it shook me to my core. I'd never heard that whistle before. It was loud. It was powerful. There was definitely something, well, how do I explain it? Unworldly, if you can say. I didn't want to go into the mines, because I didn't really want to look and see if there was an engine in there. How could there be? The only three that were on the line were me, Stewart and Falcon. So we ignored it, and blamed it on a steam pipe. However, it sounded more and more often. More workmen began resigning, hence why the gold mine closed. But then, things got weird quick. I was in my shed, and I got an alert from the signalman saying that there'd been an engine who crashed into one of the mines. Falcon wasn't back yet, so I assumed it was him, and out of pure panic, I hurried over there to see Falcon. I began confirming my suspicions when Falcon was sat there with a works train. And it clicked. Why did he have a works train? I asked him what happened, and he said he was at the sheds near the mines and heard an engine came running down the line, screaming fit to burst, and went straight for the mines after a godly explosion. And I asked it wasn't him, and he said no. It was someone else. He thought it was me. We both looked at each other with concern. What was that we heard, and what was it we were told? We scoured the mines, and there was nothing. Not a single trace of an engine was found. All that we were able to find was a scratched up nameplate. But it was too scratched to read who it was. All we could tell it was gold, and had a black base, and seemed to have the letters D and E in the name, but that was all we could make out. We put it on as just an accident, and maybe it was just some kids messing around. It does happen. However, it was weird that just multiple people happened to report hearing an engine. Anyways, as I said, we shrugged it off, and went about our work as best we could. However, it got worse. Every night we started getting reports of an engine flying down the line, screaming fit to burst, but no one ever saw it. It was almost invisible, until one signalman managed to get a glimpse of it. He was outside moving the points and said he saw an engine with red buffers and green paint come flying down the lines at him. Had no eyes and just a twisted smile, and looked like he'd been crying. And he said it was almost see-through. He could just hear wails and moans as it raced by him, screaming fit to burst. Once he told me that, I began thinking, and then came to a conclusion that I had an idea who it could have been. As if to check my suspicions, I stayed at the mine that night, and what I saw was just horrific. There, screaming down the line, was Smudger. He looked distorted and awful. Something straight out of hell. He raced straight by me, screaming fit to burst, his whistle blaring out. And then just silence, after he raced into one of the mine shafts. Then, seconds later, the mine shaft collapsed. I was in total shock, seeing my old comrade. Meaning he must have been scrap, but if he had been scrap, why the hell was he here now? Then I started to put it together. The amount of days I knew Smudger, he only wanted to work and be nice to everyone. He wanted to be useful, but just couldn't. Then I remembered that the trucks and everything were being organized. Was it him? Was he finally making up for his misdeeds? I couldn't be 100% sure. However, I needed to give my best and try. After the railway's closure and we were moved here, I never heard anything of it again. The people who still live near the old Mid-Sodor Railway will still tell you that on misty nights they can hear his whistle, screaming fit to burst as he races along what used to be our old home. They say that if you're ever told this story, Smudger will visit you should you ever step nearer narrow gauge railway. Now that I've told you, perhaps he'll start appearing. But if he does, from what I've been told by some unfortunate souls that have come face to face with him, don't try and help him. We had one report of a guard who tried to stop Smudger, and, well, you know how it goes. We never heard from the guard again. So remember, if you see the Troublesome engine, stay out of his way, don't go near him, and if he chases you, run like hell. Or else, who knows where you'll end up.